want to take this time to introduce everybody to a promotion gladiator. His name is Terry Anzaldo. I remember him. We worked together at RCA Victor's records, tapes, and compact discs. Did they have compact discs in those days?
Yeah, they had just, well, yes, because CDs came out in like, what, about 87, 86-ish, 88 maybe?
But you came here from where? Omaha, right?
I'm a transplant from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm proud to say that, not to date this video footage, but in a couple of weeks will be May 24th, and that'll be 28 years since I moved out here. So to try and make my parents proud.
Well, you did. You succeeded.
If you say so.
You know, I mean, a lot of people, they reach for the brass ring and they never get it.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
got it.
That's true.
I mean, it's like you established for yourself a legacy. I feel I did the same thing.
I appreciate that. With your help, too.
Don't humor me.
Listen to me, LARockbands.com. This is a rock dog to the dog. We call him Loft Dog, Jeff Laufer, and he's a rock dog, man. He's born and raised in Los Angeles, so he knows about the Sunset Strip. He knows about the bands that broke out of Los Angeles. He's a music connoisseur. I learned from a guy like this.
I appreciate the accolades. I want to know your history.
Okay,
because like promotion, man, nobody knows what we did and how important it was.
I think that everybody behind the scenes in music is a promotion guy. As an executive, maybe not so much as producers, but we're all producers too. You know what I mean? But in terms of if you're engineering or turning the dials or bringing in the musicians or whatever, that's not necessarily promotion. But at the end of the day, whether you're in publicity, whether you're in sales, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in promotion, it's all for the same common goal, and that is to promote, or more specifically, to not use that word to define what it means. Expose the act, expose the artist, expose the music.
I mean, back in the
to the consumer, to the public, to the fans.
Back in the 50s, they used to call us song pluggers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were. We plugged songs.
Yeah.
And we would plug songs to like jukebox, operators, people like that. But the definition was pluggers.
It's a very interesting. I try to expand my mind a little bit and not be so offended. That is somewhat of in today's world, or in the world that we came up doing promotion in your case the 80s, in my case the 90s, and into the 21st century. That is somewhat of an offensive type of a term. But I like to consider myself a headhunter as well when it comes to connecting dots. That's what my company does. My twin brother and partner doesn't like that term. Headhunters, what are you talking about? We're facilitators. I like to think that we look under rocks and we look for opportunities, and we try to connect the artist with a production or with an opportunity.
That is what you're doing now. But
yeah.
I want to know your history. I want to know your history when you first came from Omaha. Your first job was at RCA.
My first job working for a corporation was at RCA Records. I was hired in 1989 at the end of the year, and actually started the first Monday back from the holidays, January whatever, 1990, and that's when I met you.
And you did local promotion in Los Angeles, right?
In Los Angeles for RCA Records. But if you don't mind me going back for a second, prior to working, in the corporate world, I started managing my oldest brother's band, who I actually moved out here for. He was my inspiration. I mean, he was a professional drummer at 13 years old. He's 5 years older than me. I was 8 years old. I remember him sticking the album jacket of Beatles 65 in my hand, and me and my twin brother would sit on the couch and rock to the Beatles 65, holding that album jacket. So he was always our musical inspiration. And when he moved out here in 1982, I followed him in 84. I did a bunch of various jobs. I was a basketball official. I was a travel agent.
I remember going to your games.
I was a travel agent. I worked.
But when you did promotion,
I was a bartender. And sorry to cut you off, but I'm trying to get to this place. We promotion people have that gift of gab, or I don't know if it's a gift. We just talk a lot, sometimes too much. But eventually, I became my brother and my cousin's band's manager. And so I would book them in rooms, and this is very fitting for LARockbands.com. I would book them in rooms like the FM station in North Hollywood, the legendary Madame Wong's in Santa Monica, of course, the Roxy, the Whiskey, any rooms around town that were supporting original music, as opposed to having to go to Orange County and do top 40 cover music, or go out to Ventura County and do top 40 cover music. In Los Angeles, it was all about original music. You didn't get paid to play cover gigs. You basically had to pay to play your original music at those places. And what do I mean by having to pay? You had to guarantee the Filthy McNasties and the Wolfgang McNasties of the FM station and the like of these other rooms, fabulous rooms here in Los Angeles. You had to guarantee them that you could draw 200 people. And they'd get in free. You know, you'd provide them with tickets or guest list or what have you. And back in those days, we were handwriting flyers and folding them up and putting stamps on them. We didn't have the luxury of websites. We didn't have the luxury of the internet. We didn't have the luxury of email. It was a lot of work. So all you youngsters out there, you have it so much easier than we did in those days. That's not a complaint. That's just more inspiration for you guys to just know that although it's not easy, the tools are much more available to you today than what they were to us. And in those days, I was putting up flyers of my brother's band called The Cause. The Cause. My cousin's name is Cosentino, so we called them the Wizards of Cos, C-O-Z. It's C-O-S-E-N-T-I-N-O.
Now, your father was the mayor of Omaha, wasn't he?
He was the mayor of Omaha, and he's a musician. I grew up watching my father on the television, on black and white television when I was a kid, because he played in the Eddie Haddad Orchestra, and the Eddie Haddad show on television was like a local version of the Lawrence Welk show. And I know none of you people watching this right now have any idea who Lawrence Welk is. Where are the bubbles? Are the bubbles behind me right now? Can we put some bubbles in there? But just to finish that portion, before I got fortunate enough to get a job in the record business with you and at RCA Records, and that's what really kind of launched my career. But I was on the job training, managing my brother's band, and in those days, this is like 1984, 1985, and I was putting up flyers over Guns N' Roses on the Sunset Strip, over the Red Hot Chili Peppers on the Sunset Strip, over bands like Motley Crue. I was putting our flyers over theirs because they were trying to break in those days just like we were. And they were all up and down the Sunset Strip playing these fabulous rooms. Gazzarri's, obviously, on Santa Monica.
And the Roxy.
Definitely the Roxy. But for us, we were more of a funk band. A bunch of Sicilians from Omaha, Nebraska that was like really into like white funk, like Wild Cherry and Average White Band, Average White Band and that type of stuff. But also that Southern rock, i.e. the Allman Brothers, Little Feat. Not so much Skynyrd, more obscure like Little Feat and like the Allman Brothers. And of course we love Grand Funk Railroad.
Oh.
We're from Omaha. All you Chiquitas in Omaha.
Do you know that they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, with all due respect to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's to me, what do I know? I'm not trying to diss anybody, but it's not so much that it's political, but it's like unless you let in 20 or 30 a year, there's always going to be so many people that aren't in that you can make an argument
it's almost
for.
Like a waiting list.
Well, it is, and you probably won't get them all in. I mean, do you know that Maury Wills, the great Los Angeles Dodger,
stole the most bases,
is not in the Hall of Fame? Is not in the Hall of Fame. So those types of things that are not necessarily dealt with based on fact, but more like maybe the baseball writer has a hard-on for that guy because that baseball player wouldn't never give him an interview, or he was a prick or something like that. You know, same thing in the case of music. And, you know, I mean, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I watched the show the other night on HBO. It was
a travesty on the faces.
I read your blog. I read your blog, and you were very disappointed about it. And that's why I kind of take it with a grain of salt, because with all due respect to Guns N' Roses, I know the guys were just trying to be polite and be nice, and as Duff McKagan so articulately showed how humble he was. You know, Duff hit rock bottom a long time ago. What?
A little bit more.
I figured you're cutting me off because
No.
because you were running out or
We're
something.
running out of space. Well, thank you very much, Terry.
You'll have to edit that.
Yes. Well,
I mean, there's so much more, like I said, but you got some good stuff.
I wanted to know Maverick Records. This is the man that broke Alanis Morissette.
Well, you know,
This is the man that broke Prodigy.
not one person could take credit for that. Of course, I was manning the runaway freight train that was Jagged Little Pill. And I truly believe, no disrespect to one of the greatest record companies of all time, the Big Red Machine.